much internal insulation can you add? So Andy, we get obviously a lot of people coming to us about internal wall insulation. We get some projects which are fantastically unrealistic about the amount of insulation they want to put on the inside of their walls. So sort of following on from our previous video about U-value targets, I thought it'd be great to just talk about how much insulation we actually think you can put on the inside of the wall. So first off, I mean, I'll talk briefly about brick. The thinner the brick, the less insulation you can get on. So if you've only got 100mm brick, you really can't put very much internal insulation on the inside. 20mm, probably 40mm at a push. Definitely nothing beyond that. So that's one thing. We're normally working with 9-inch brick, 225 brick, and with that, with not really too much additional consideration like renders or facade creams, we can usually do 60-80mm. It massively depends on where you are in the country. If you're around sort of London, for example, and the southeast, you can put a lot more on. If you're up in Manchester or west coast of Scotland, it tends to be a lot less. As I say, the wind and rain and the temperatures make a big difference. So there really isn't a one size fits all, but 60, 80, maybe 100mm is probably realistic for brick walls, and certainly as you move up to 330 brick walls, that gets a little bit thicker again. Stonework is a massive challenge. Yeah. So I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah. I think, this is the magic question that everyone wants to know. How thick can I install my insulation? I think first and foremost, we just need to acknowledge the fact that post-occupancy evaluation tells us time and time again that really the crux of this is not how thick is my insulation, but how well is it installed. And so less insulation installed extremely well with good air tightness measures, good continuity, is always going to give you a better enjoyment of the space, perception of comfort, and ultimately energy efficiency.
Health and everything.
Exactly, yeah. And with really joined up thinking about all the other strategies that go on, like building maintenance, how you heat and ventilate the space, all these kind of this holistic approach. I think stone is so variable in terms of stone types across the country. It's really hard to say what will work in one place and not in another. And it also becomes a real challenge in terms of how you model that and identify the level of risk in
we've only got so many stone types in Woofy to model it.
Exactly. It's, you are just absolutely operating in this kind of landscape of greys in terms of risk assessing this sort of stuff. The other thing is stone, random rubble stone walls are fantastically good at letting moisture into the wall from wind-driven rain.
Joints,
and so adding insulation always increases the stress on the wall. That's what we know, and we can take in terms of moisture. We can take certain measures to abate that using materials like wood fibre, which generally work, in harmony with the wall, are a good way of abating that risk. But it doesn't absolve us of considering this risk entirely.
No, definitely not.
And so, short of adding rain screen cladding or render, you're generally looking at more conservative build-ups of insulation to, as I say, improve comfort, but not, add undue stress on the wall. Especially when we're thinking about, it's not necessarily, it's rarely the case with something like wood fibre that you add, so much insulation to the wall that you physically create a dew point, a condensation zone at the interface between the insulation and the wall.
No.
But it's the issues that occur below the condensation threshold. So if you have embedded timbers in the wall, we don't need physical condensate to accumulate in the wall for there to be a risk to the joist ends. At about 87% relative humidity in masonry, then there's sufficient moisture stored in the timber to potentially facilitate decay, and that's really what we're looking to.
That's one of the biggest sort of hindrances to adding insulation to the insides, and that's one of our biggest concerns when we're assessing specifications is that threshold for timber, because obviously we can insulate buildings actually a lot more than we suggest, but if there's any embedded timber in there, it doesn't really matter. You're going to end up rotting it all out, and your house is going to fall apart. So that is obviously quite a consideration.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, good.